This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. Welcome to the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom. As you can see, this is not our normal studio setup. We are chilling. My notebook's blowing. I'm out on the deck. We're at the lake. This is vacation style. And I'm excited about this episode because it kind of ties in. Episode 14 is 10K Cashflow from your RV with Zach Johnson. So our guest Zach Johnson's on with us. Zach, how you doing today, man?
Hey, doing really well. How about yourself, buddy?
Oh, man, can't be much better. The sun's shining. Beautiful. It's outside. You know, I feel like it's appropriate for me to like really lean into this here. How's this?
I love it. It's a beautiful day at the lake.
So for our audience here, I want to give you a little bio on Zach to get this started. Zach and his wife, Trisha, are based out of Fargo, North Dakota. They have 3 little boys at home and are expecting their first baby girl this fall. Super excited for you, man. 2 years ago, they were looking to rent a motorhome and take it to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for a wedding. During this process, they saw the opportunity to purchase a brand new motorhome instead and utilize Outdoorsy, the online platform, to rent out their motorhome and create cash flow. Over the last 2 summers, they have exceeded $10,000 in revenue renting out their motorhome, albeit a very short rental season in North Dakota, of course. And Zach, you guys, that was 2 summers ago. You still have the place, the rolling home, I should say. I mean, dude, this is a crazy thing. Like, how did you guys start this? And actually, my question is, tell us about Frankie. That's what you call it, your motorhome, Frankie. Tell us about Frankie and how this came to be, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Frankie the Flare. So it's a 2021 Fleetwood Flare is like the name of the motorhome. And I'll just like foreshadow all this with like, I knew nothing about motorhomes, campers. Like we had a lake cabin growing up, so we didn't do any of this growing up. So this completely just falls in our lap last summer. My wife's twin brother is going to get married in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I'm like, babe, we're gonna drive out there. We're gonna rent a motorhome. We're gonna drive out there. We're gonna show our boys, and make some real memories. We're gonna show them part of the country. And I had really never been there either, to the Upper Peninsula. So a huge, really cool opportunity. You start looking into renting a motorhome, and it is expensive, Kyle. I mean, we're looking like April, May timeframe of last summer. One, the demand was crazy. Supply and demand in this area. There's one kind of dealer who rents out maybe 5 to 10 motorhomes a year on their lot, and they're all booked all summer long. And I'm booking in like April. So first off, I'm like, the demand is high. Second off, I'm like, we're trying to rent it for 6 days, and it's going to cost me over $3,000 to take it for 6 days. When you think about the nightly rental, the mileage fees, like running the generator, renting campgrounds, I'm like, it's not cheap to rent. So we signed the dotted line. We rent a motorhome. We signed the contract with this rental company in town. A week later, I'm like, babe, you know what? Like, we could pull this off. Like, I could buy one and do what they're doing. They're stealing from people right now with the way they're making money on these motorhomes. And so we did it. That was like, a week after. 1 week later, I found one online. I drove 2.5 hours to pick it up. Brand new motorhome, $120,000, $115,000 motorhome, brand new. I had never driven a motorhome before. I'd never used a motorhome before. I had no clue what I'm doing, but I knew the demand was high, especially in this market. And I knew we could make some money. I was pretty confident that we could at least break even and not have to make any payments on this thing. And we were going to get to use it when we wanted to as a family. I mean, that was the big moment where it's like, we're going to jump and pull the trigger on this one.
Man, you said so many things that tie in perfectly with our vision at the Passive 25K group and our audience, which is lifestyle decision-making, but then also creating passive income for your family. How did that conversation go with you and your wife? Was that like, we want to do what from Trisha? Or was this like, you guys kind of shared the vision. It's like, hey, like you said, it's a two-part thing. We as a family can enjoy it, make a little cash on the side. Was that something you guys always wanted to do?
For sure. She was all in. Thankfully, she trusts me. It was a big old jump into the deep end of the lake for me. Again, I had no clue what I was doing. Had never rented a motorhome, never used one, had never used this outdoorsy platform. So for any listeners who don't know, outdoorsy would be like the Airbnb, the VRBO of campers, motorhomes, whatever you want to rent out on the outdoorsy platform. That's what it's used for. So I'd never even used that before. But just been after doing a little bit of research, specifically in our market here in North Dakota, knowing that we're sitting in April and almost every motorhome is booked out the rest of the summer. Like, I could really do this. I can get these rentals. I knew what I was going to pay to rent one. So I knew kind of some of the numbers. I ran some numbers, like how many rentals do we have to get this summer? And the biggest thing, again, is that lifestyle decision. I knew that we were not only going to get to use it to go to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that summer, we're also going to get to take it wherever we want. And fast forward to the fall of last year, we took it for 6 weeks and did the whole West Coast. We drove the, Highway 1 down California. And there's no way, a family with a single income, we can't afford a motorhome rental for 6 weeks going down the coastline of California. But we can when you own it and you're renting it out throughout the year, creating some of that income.
Man, God, that is amazing. And I remember when you did that, Zach, you and your family took that time, welcomed a new family member, and it was like, boom, let's just do this. Let's create that freedom. We're all about that. So real quick, man, you said the numbers made sense. And so I want to walk through the simple numbers, the initial ones here. Okay, so you said this thing's like 100 grand, 120 grand. That's what a motorhome costs?
Yeah, I think it was about 120. We put down 10%. So we financed 108, I believe, on a 15-year loan. You're talking about $750, $800 a month. Call it another $100 in insurance to cover the motorhome. Our break even each month is just shy of $900. You think, $10,800 for the year feels pretty good about breaking even on the payments of the motorhome.
Gotcha. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. That kind of helps. And that's different, obviously, than people investing in homes. This is a vehicle. They probably want you a little quicker amortization, put a little down. And we're talking a motorhome, like this is RV in people's minds, right? And there's
RV, a motorhome, Class A. Yeah, I love the crows. Class A motorhome, which would be like the bus front, like the flat front motorhome. Class C would be like the van front, where there's something over the top of the cab driver. It's a Class A flat front. It's short. It's probably one of the shorter Class A's you can buy. It's about 29 feet, 30 feet. Some of those like retiree Class A motorhomes, those can be 40, 45-foot motorhomes. It's a 30-foot motorhome. It's very family friendly. It's very, maybe what I would say, newbie driver friendly. Someone who hasn't operated these before, they can figure it out. I do a 1-hour walkthrough with renters and send them on their way.
Gotcha. Okay. So the Class A is probably going to be, is that the higher demand? Like there's different classes with this. I think that's important to note. Like I'm thinking of the trailers, like you say, Class C with the vehicle front. And then you're talking like bouncy seat in the front, big windshield style RV. And is that the top? Would you say that's the better version for rental and everything?
I think so. It's the nicest version you're going to get. It's going to give you the most space and the most room inside. I mean, like when I said we have the shortest one, or maybe a smaller one than you think, we still have a full king bedroom in there, a queen bedroom drop down, a couch that turns into a bed. The dinette turns into a bed. I mean, it could sleep 8 pretty easily. At some point, you could really squish them in if you wanted to, but it's got the room to host all sorts of different type of events, different people. When it comes to our renter, kind of target market.
Okay, so let's jump into the aspect of outdoorsy, the platform you used. Are there other platforms out there, or is that the one that you were drawn to the most? Like, talk to us about that decision making, because I hadn't heard of outdoor. You mentioned it to me, and then I was like, "Whoa, look at this!"
For sure. And I've learned so much. So I follow all the forums and the Facebook groups. There's individual owners like myself, especially in the southern part of our country, hard in North Dakota, who have mini fleets of these, like they have mini fleets of motorhomes that they're renting out on these platforms. But yeah, there's multiple platforms. I would say Outdoorsy is probably the nicer one. Really good technology platform, but you have Outdoorsy, you have RV Share is one, RVZ is another one, RV and Go is another one. But just like Airbnb and VRBO, I mean, there's different options out there. I would say Outdoorsy is at the top.
Okay, so then is there an option to host on multiple platforms, or is it still kind of secular at this point?
Oh yeah, no, you can definitely host on multiple platforms, and we can get into this later. We left our motorhome in Arizona last winter. We had a management company rent it out on our behalf down in Arizona. He listed it on multiple platforms, so he had it on Outdoorsy, RV Share, and RVZ because it's a tougher market. It's a more competitive market. Our motorhome was in Phoenix, Arizona, being managed by someone else from December 1st to the end of May of this year. And he had it listed on 3 platforms. I don't need to do that here because it's not that competitive in the Fargo market.
Gotcha. Okay. And I think everybody caught what Zach just said there. To pour gas on the passive income fire here, you actually transported your RV down south in the winter months when you definitely wouldn't be using it to try to continue to create income.
For sure. And we were down there anyway. So we took our 6-week trip. All right, let's take a 6-week trip. We're going to do the West Coast. We're going to do Highway 1 of California. We end in Phoenix, Arizona. We fly home from Phoenix beginning of December, and we leave the motorhome in Phoenix, Arizona with a gentleman who I found online through forums and Facebooks who does this. I think it's like his 5th or 6th year that he was in of managing other people's motorhomes in the Phoenix market. Typically people from the north, just like me. I didn't even know this existed before I found all this. But he managed, I think this last winter, he managed like 4 or 5 of them from his house. He's got 4 or 5 motorhomes. He took care of ours. Obviously takes a cut. You're losing revenue when it's down there from that perspective because someone else is managing it. But it kept it moving. I mean, otherwise it's going to sit up here in a storage unit out of the elements, and I'm not going to get any rentals from November 1st to May probably up in North Dakota.
100%, man. And it's crazy. Yeah, it's leveraging your asset and truly making it 100% passive at that point.
Correct. Yeah, that's the exciting part. Again, cutting into your revenue stream at the end of the day. It's worth it to us to manage it ourselves, especially when it's here. It's exponentially more money when it's up here in Fargo managing it ourselves. But a great experience to continue to make those payments and not have to worry about it throughout the winter time. I mean, completely hands off.
Man, okay. So getting back to the numbers here, walk us through what this looked like. You had 2 seasons under your belt now, kind of. I mean, we're in August here, but
for sure.
Walk us through the hot times, right? And you as the manager. And then I also want to dive into like when it was managed by someone else. I know you only did that 1 time so far, but just how was that more break even, or how that shrunk into your margins, or walk us through that.
For sure. So if you think about numbers and pricing, I mean, you set all the prices yourself on the Outdoorsy platform. You pick the price, what you want to rent it for. There's a few key areas when it comes to gaining revenue from the motorhome. 1, the nightly rental fee. Right now we're set at $250 a night. I mean, does really well. For special events like 4th of July week, We Fest up here, which is a big country music festival, we're $350 a night for those, like larger security deposits. So it fluctuates throughout the year. It's flexible. But $250 a night. And then you're also going to get 50 cents every mile they drive. And you're also going to get $3 every hour they run the generator. So a few different lanes of revenue as you think about people who rent it out. And for us, I mean, the best rentals are when they take it on long distance trips, and being in Fargo, a lot of them are, like you go out to Yellowstone, that's a, 1,500 mile trip. That's an additional $750 in fees that you're going to end up paying me when you return the motorhome. So that's been some of our better ones. Oftentimes they might be paying us more in mileage than they are the $250 a night, rental fee.
Gotcha.
So that was,
okay. That's cool to hear the different revenue streams, Zach. Like, I feel like that's an aha that maybe you didn't even think of, but when you started this, like I've just thought of nightlies,
For sure. And something we learned because we were going to rent one also. So we learned it from them, like kind of going through it and why it was going to be so expensive to drive this rental motorhome up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We're like, wow, that is going to get expensive. Let's look at some other options here. And this kind of fell into our plate. So yeah, it's been kind of crazy. A learning experience.
Okay. So as you're getting into this, the summers book out pretty good. Like, what are we talking? If we're going to talk like occupancy rate, and then let's talk some revenue numbers as much as you want to share, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I'm an open book. I got nothing to hide as people want to learn from this and the opportunity it is. Again, I'll preface this by saying it's also tough. I mean, like managing it and turning it over, you know, cleaning it, meeting with renters, check-ins and check-outs. Like we've spent a significant number of hours doing some of that stuff. But going back to the lifestyle decision that we made for our family to own our own motorhome, it was kind of a no-brainer. And the memories we've made have, you know, far surpassed our expectations. But I would say I just wrote down some numbers. I went back and looked what we did. So last year on Outdoorsy, I would say our rental season is June 1st. That's kind of our calendar year or business year is June 1st. June, July, August, September. So 4 months is really our rental season here in North Dakota. Unfortunately, a third of the year, we only had 7 rentals. So last summer, 7 rentals across 4 months. So you're averaging what? Almost 2 rentals a month. Brought in about 11 grand, just shy of 11 grand in those 4 months. So obviously right there, we've covered ourselves for the whole year. You know, man. Made our payments.
And it's still available for a lot of the months, you know, like for you guys to use. It's not, you don't have to. 11 grand was only 7 rentals. What would you say the average rental is? Or did you have some short ones and some really long ones?
For sure. We have a minimum of 4 nights. So that keeps some of the short stuff away. And then we had some long ones. Yeah. I think we had a 14-day rental. We had a 10-day rental. You know, those take it up. And then we were using it, you know, like, so there was only 7 rentals across 4 months in our first busy season, but we took it to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We took it to Minnesota for a wedding. We took it on the 4th of July to the lake cabin. You know, like we got to use it for a number of these different things at the same time. You know, you can book it out anytime you want and just reserve the dates that you and your family want to use it for. So man, the memories we've made there. So yeah, about 11 grand in those 4 months. Then we take it to California. We drive all of October, second half of October, all of November, 6 weeks. We're in the motorhome doing a big round trip on the West Coast. We drop it off in Phoenix with the management company, and it's much slower than what it is here. More competitive job market. We get $250 a night up here. He gets like $210, $220 a night down there. So again, more competitive, and you're sharing revenue with him. So in the 6 months he had it down there, we had 9 rentals for about 4 grand. So not as much as we'd want to do, but again, it was completely hands off. I wasn't paying a storage fee up here in North Dakota, and I didn't need it anyways, and it's still making money for me. And 4 grand is 4 grand. That's making another 4 months payments for us. So
yeah, it's years, man. That's awesome.
So in my calculations, just in rough math, that first year, June 1st, we bought the motorhome in May. June 1st through May, we go back, fly down to Arizona, pick it up, drive it back to Fargo. We did about 16 rentals for just shy of $15,000.
Man. And then I love calculating in, you know, the sunk costs of you guys living your lives in this, which is you guys took 3, 4, 5 trips that I heard on there. And if you added that expense, that would have been an expense for you or a greater expense at that. I mean, we're well into 25,000 plus. We're talking if you guys had to go rent your own motorhome or, you know, and you still wanted the same lifestyle.
Oh man. You know? Yeah. What's on some dumb math here, 6 weeks. If you wanted to go 6 weeks in the motorhome times $250 a night, there's 10 grand right there, you know, not even talking mileage. Yeah.
Yes.
We're
is
just as much in sunk costs. We're just as much, if not more, in sunk costs. 15 grand we made on renting it out. We're just as much, if not more, in sunk costs in year one for sure. In memories.
Man. That is that's got to be a huge component of this. This idea, I like it when you touched on it. People always call it the Uber of this or the Airbnb of RVing. Plays in two different buckets. I know we already said this, but it's so important for people that are trying to get their wheels turning in passive income or extra revenue streams. You don't have to do it all businessy. You can do it according to how you live your life. I think of people that have vacation homes. This is a moving vacation home, and now your family has experiences alongside covering your debts. Oh, wait, your debt's going down. Honestly, probably the depreciation in RVs is not the same as it used to be because the demand for these things is so high, and
For sure.
you're still getting revenue on this thing. So, I mean, I absolutely love so many factors of this. And the number one being it's accessible. This was something that you guys were already going to do. And you turn the switch of, I want to buy it. I want to turn it into an asset. And 2 months later, you were there, So, dude, I think this is super powerful. I think a lot of people haven't heard of this before. Like you said, it's very new information for most, including myself. But super cool to hear. We're going to take a little break. And then when we get back, I want to really dive into some of the experiences that you've had on, yourself with an RV, owning an RV, and then even managing it and going through some of that side of it, because there's an active component to this, of course. But yeah, we'll go through some of that after the break, man. Hey, wanted to take a quick break from this week's episode. Wondering if you ever ask yourself, how do I get started in this stuff? Or if I'm already doing it, what are some next steps or people that are doing the same thing that I want to do, people on this passive income journey? Well, we were getting that question and we created a community of passive income investors called Passive Income University. This is a place where you can watch videos, things that we've done, where we put tools and information, where we've built a community of people that can communicate, ask questions, and grow together to start their passive income journey. And eventually we complete our passive income journey together. If you're interested in more info on Passive Income University, check us out at p25kg.com. Okay, we are back with the Passive 25K podcast. As you can see, I changed my background a little bit. I don't know if you noticed, but I had a crow as a third guest that was chiming in on the outside. So that's vacation podcasting for you. But that's why we love it. This is about lifestyle. This is about having great conversations. And we've jumped into some really cool parts with Zach Johnson here on our episode 14 about cash flow in your RV. Man, you touched on some amazing topics in the first half. One of which that was really intriguing to me was how your RV is bringing in multiple streams of revenue, more than just the nightly. You're getting mileage revenue. You're getting dollars for how when they're running the generator. Like, that was a really cool topic to me. And then leveraging it down south during the winter months when you're not using it, truly creating a passive income for your property. You're moving your motorhome there. So, I mean, I think that this is super cool stuff. And in the second half here, man, I want to get into what it looks like to manage this thing, because there's an active component here. This is, again, one of those things in passive income investing or investing in general that's simple, not easy. There's a reason not everyone does it, right? So I want to hear some positive experiences, some of those moments when it was like, man, this is great. Maybe a family that had a huge victory, made a family memory, or, even share with us some of maybe the negative stuff that you've had to go through. What's wrong with this? Be real with us, man. So would love for you to get into some of that.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to scare people a little bit with some negatives, but we'll start with the positives. It's been overwhelmingly positive, our entire experience. But I would say, first off, we've been fortunate to have really good renters. And maybe that's the price point. I talked about this at the beginning. This is why we jumped into it. It's because it's expensive to rent a motorhome, whether you're renting it for 4 days or 8 days. It adds up, the nightly fee, the mileage, renting a campground, whatever it might be. So we've had great renters all throughout. Zero issues. You feel really protected by the platform as well, because they do verification of the renters. They have a really good security deposit there for every single renter. Every renter has to pay for insurance for your motorhome. So that's covered through Outdoorsy as well. So for mileage fees, incidentals, minor damage, anything like that, I can just pull it directly from the security deposit. through the Outdoorsy platform makes it super easy for me as the manager to not have to deal with the renter. Like I'm not asking them to cut me a check or Venmo me, because you owe me for this. And now they're like, well, I'm not going to pay for that. I'm already gone. No, it comes, Outdoorsy's holding that security deposit. So that makes it really easy for us. But yeah, we've had great renters. Some of the really cool things like, a family taking it out to Yellowstone and they're so excited. And one of the ones that sticks out to me was like, they had two 18-year-old twins and then like a 16-year-old girl. And they're like, this is our last trip. Like, this is our last trip with our kids, because they're going to go off to college. They were going to be freshmen in college and they're not going to be kids anymore. They're going to be adults. Like, this is our last chance to be in a small space together. I love that. That pulls at my heartstrings. Some of the things this summer, it was used for a weekend for like a bank's commercial. Like they rented it for $250 a night for an entire weekend, and they were shooting a commercial for a local bank here in Fargo. They found us on the Outdoorsy platform, so it wasn't even going anywhere. I'm not sure if I should share this or not, but the governor of North Dakota had it for a weekend, took it out to Medora, just by happenstance. Just by happenstance. This last weekend was WeFest, our biggest country musical fest in the Midwest up here. Two guys from Ireland fly in and rent the motorhome for 5 days. They pay an extra fee, bigger security deposit, but just great renters. It's in Sturgis right now for 10 days. So you got to be a little trusting on some of those different music festivals or bigger events. They're taking your very expensive motorhome somewhere, but you got to trust it, and you got to rely on the platform and trust your renters and have really good communication skills, and walk them through the process. That'd be a lot of the good highlights, and obviously just, paying for the motorhome. We get to use it whenever we want. We also park it in our driveway. We're fortunate enough to have like an extra stall where we can park the motorhome, and we've had people use it in our driveway before, family and friends. It's something I've thought about dabbling in. Like, why not list it on Airbnb in the driveway?
No
like
kidding,
it's plugged
man.
in. It's got power. It's got water. Like, why don't I just list it this fall for college football season in Fargo, North Dakota, and list it on Airbnb, So there's options there. It's been really cool. Some of the negatives, it's a lot of work. You're dealing with renters, you're communicating with renters. Last summer, we actually had a kind of a crazy summer. I forget about it now because this summer has gone so smoothly and so good. Last summer, I hit a deer with the motorhome. So you got to take care of that. And you got to make sure renters are lined up appropriately. So if anything happens to it, it's a lot of communication. One of our renters got sideswiped in the motorhome, not their fault. Another car sideswiped them. The Outdoorsy platform was awesome. The renter paid for insurance through Outdoorsy. They get back to my house. I see the accident. Outdoorsy's like, okay, take 10 pictures with your phone of the outside of the motorhome. Boom, 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 boom. 2 days later, they sent me $7,000 in my direct deposit to pay for the damage. The greatest insurance experience I've ever had in my life is insurance claim experience.
Man.
That makes me feel good too. When things happen, Outdoorsy has always taken care of me. The renters have always taken care of us. We've never had any major issues with renters. We treat renters with respect and trust and love, and we expect the same in return, to return our motorhome in the same condition you found it in. So we've been very fortunate from a lot of those aspects.
Zach, what do you do to ensure that you have success like that? Is there a certain underwriting of the renter, that maybe you have to kind of review who they are, or I even think of operationally, do you have a certain process you go through before they rent? Like you talked about the walkthrough and things like that to try to really, mitigate any.
Yeah, great question. So people have to request the rental on the platform on Outdoorsy. So I get a rental request. They don't get automatically approved like you might on Airbnb. So I get the request, and then I get the message back and forth with them. Where are you going? How many people? Have you ever used a motorhome before? Do you have a campground rented? All these different questions, and none of that's required. Many renters have never used a motorhome before. That's just fine. I just want to know so I can set you up for success. Yeah, and then a really good walkthrough. I love people in my day job. I'm a sales guy. I work with people all the time. So just meeting new people and, again, treating them with respect and trusting them, but giving them a really good walkthrough of the motorhome, the outside, the inside, how to set it up, how to do the slide outs, all the things we offer. We have camping chairs in there and outdoor blankets and rugs and a grill they can use and all the kitchen supplies. all the sheets, pillows, blankets, towels. So we make it like a one-stop shop experience. We have a lot of renters that fly in and just they're bringing their suitcase with. I mean, just 2 rentals ago was flying in from Colorado for a family reunion. This last rental was flying in from Ireland, going to WeFest, like trying to make it the best experience possible, making sure they're well educated and just communicating well. If they have questions, being available. That's another thing, just like maybe another negative, always being available to just answer a quick question. We don't get a ton of them, but if they need something, happy to be there. But Outdoorsy also has like roadside assistance. Like you blow a tire, you don't call me, you call Outdoorsy and they're going to send out a tow truck or whatever to come. Thankfully, we've never had to deal with that, but another peace of mind for me to know that would be taken care of.
I think that's important to note, that the platform has had so much satisfaction from you, that you've really had a good experience there, because that can also be, that could be the cherry on top for, pain points in this. What do your friends and family think about this, Zach? Like people getting into creative thinking sometimes gets pushback and sometimes it inspires. You know what I mean? Like, are people like Zach and Trisha are doing, crazy Zach and Trisha things again? They're renting out their RV, or are people like, this is cool? Like what's kind of been some of the fallout in you doing this or making this decision?
Yeah, I would say last June was what are crazy Zach and Trisha doing, or what's crazy Zach doing, because he's the one who, is jumping off into the deep end of this lake by pulling the trigger on this. A lot of people thought that, my parents included. I think they thought it was cool, like go for it. They're not going to, be negative about it. But yeah, just like I had never heard about it. I mean, no one in our circles had ever heard about it or done it. Like I didn't have a path to follow, or, I just started looking online and reading as much as I could. And now fast forward 1.5 years and we've never made a payment on the motorhome, so it's like someone else is paying, albeit a depreciating asset. Someone is still making payments on my asset, that I took a loan out for. So now everyone thinks it's pretty cool. And especially that we get the opportunity to use it too. When you take a 6-week vacation down Highway 1 of California, when you're, 30 years old and 3 young kids in the motorhome, those are memories you'll never forget. And again, yeah, that's things that make it worth it all day long, that people think it's really, really cool that we pulled that trigger.
Yeah, and you even shared with me a cool story when we were prepping this. Like, you have family members that have kind of jumped on the train with you a little bit on this thing, right? You were giving me some.
Yeah, close friend of ours, and I don't want to take all the credit, but possibly, from what we've done of buying a recreational tool that we wanted to use and then renting it out. Man, you could really own something like that yourself and make some money off it. So a good friend of ours, they love Florida. They're a Florida vacation family. They're buying a ocean boat, a center console, 2022 fishing boat, probably in that $125,000 range, a really, really nice fishing boat. And he found a management company to manage it for him in Florida. Going back to the numbers on our motorhome, $120,000 motorhome, we get about $250 a night. This blows my mind. Ocean fishing boat, about 125, 150 grand. I'm not sure what he actually paid for it. $600 a day they get for rents in Florida. Managed by a guy who manages a fleet of boats. I think he has 5 or 6 boats that he manages. This will be the newest and the nicest boat in his little management fleet. And now they have an asset, again, albeit a depreciating asset, but they have an asset in Florida. Someone else is making the payments on it. And at $600 a day, they're going to be making some money. And that's a year-round rental. Like, we're so strapped here in North Dakota with basically 4 months of good rental time with the motorhome. I mean, that fishing boat is going to be rented year-round, and they're going to have a place to go and use it anytime that they want. They can jump down there and use their own fishing boat. So a really cool thing. I think their goal would be to turn that income into a vacation home, a rental home in Florida, so that was their first step to some of that, retirement freedom financially.
Man, I feel like now more than ever, we are in a time where you can mix pleasure with business and you can create the lifestyle you want and cover your expenses. Not only cover, you can cash flow. I mean, Zach, What you just said, I don't even know. Is that on the outdoorsy platform too? Do you know, or is that a totally different platform?
No, separate, just not even on a platform, I don't think. I think it's just like a guy who has a small business of, no technology.
Well, there's an
I don't
app
think.
idea for somebody that want, make it a brand, right?
For sure. I think there is. I know there is an app for rental boats and whatever else, for sure.
But I mean, at $600 a day and you're in a vacation area, no wonder if that's available. I bet you they get backlogged on bookings for that thing. And I mean, do some quick math, 10 days, goodness sake, what's your pay? Probably similar payment for the boat.
For sure. I think and I'll preface that with, I think, a few things that I didn't mention from numbers on both sides. One, outdoorsy takes 20% of the nightly rental. So that's something we probably didn't mention in the beginning. So $250 a night, I take home $200 a night. Not bad. It's worth every penny because of the insurance, the security deposit, the support, the customer service. I mean, the availability, people being able to find me their marketing tools at Outdoorsy. I've never done a marketing. I've never posted my motorhome on Facebook. I've never reached out to anyone to try and gain rentals. I've never marketed anything. Outdoorsy handles it all. The boat rental, I think, is a 50%, maybe it's a 40 or 50% management fee. So, I mean, if you're getting $600 a day, still, a friend of mine is going to get $300 to $350 a day. Again, say 10 days, say 15 days, do the quick math. You're cash flowing pretty quickly.
Yeah, man, seriously. And working your way into something that you want. I'm all about bringing lifestyle into your life now, but I don't love sinking yourself in payments in order to do it, right? But we're talking about cash flow in these payments, man. We're talking about assets here. Like you said, albeit a depreciating one, but I love that you shared that, man, because again, the whole idea of renting an RV, the idea of Turo, we're going to have someone on the podcast talking about Turo, renting your primary car or your own car. Now we're talking about boats. There's so many options here. And I know we have a lot of people that, like I say, sit on the fence with taking action on creating that next revenue stream, right? There's always usually one or two revenue streams in a household, primary income. And then it's like, okay, are we thinking bigger? What can we get into? What are some options for us? And this is definitely on the list, man.
For sure. Love the Turo. I mean, that's something we talked about as a family. We had an old Suburban that we'd been driving and, we had no car payments all through COVID, 3 or 4 years. All our cars are paid off. The Suburban needs to be upgraded. We got 3 young kids. And I'm like, babe, I think I'm going to get a brand new Suburban. And I'm going to Turo that thing. Like we could live off one car when the Suburban's being rented and you rent it for, again, 5 days a month, 10 days a month. Then you still have it for 20 or 25 days a month and it pays for the entire Suburban, whatever it might be. I really looked into Turo and I'm still interested in it. So I'm looking forward to that podcast as well.
Yeah, man. You'll have to, there's a guy in town that does really well with it. So that'll be fun. And so, dude, talk to me about this. Cause you definitely, I can hear it in your voice. You have vision, you have a lot of, what would be your plans for this? Is it, is this something that you could expand or maybe not even your plans, but like, is there a model for expansion here? Because it seems like there's a sample size here, like a proof of concept is what I'm going for. And I mean, and then you've talked about some of these managers having multiple, right? Like what are your plans? What are your thoughts around that? Obviously you just mentioned Turo, but.
For sure. Yeah. The motorhome business is hard living in North Dakota. I'll say that all day long. If I lived in the South where I could rent 12 months out of the year, I mean, in 4 months, we're averaging over 10K in revenue. If I could do that 12 months, that'd be 30K a year on, $10,000 in payments. You're cash flowing 20 grand. If I lived in the South, I'm buying 2 or 3 more motorhomes tomorrow, because I can do that. And it makes a ton of sense. Up here, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But when you think about lifestyle decisions, but not draining yourself in debt, like what are some of those other things? Yeah, that new Suburban on Turo. What about a brand new pontoon for your family? Renting that out for $250, $300 a day, on some rentals. What about that ice house you really want? What about that new dump trailer that you need for a project? And you can list that on Outdoorsy. There's trailers on there. Like what piece of equipment do you need in your life? What about that new 4-wheeler with a push blade for snow removal that you're going to rent out on Outdoorsy? Like there's so many different options. What's in your lifestyle? what do you want to gain and have access to and own, but also not make the payments on it? I mean, the opportunities are endless. I don't think in this market, there's not a huge opportunity for like an expanded fleet for me in motorhomes, but certainly in our lifestyle with a single income with, little kids, what else do we want out of life without, draining ourselves in debt and payments? Opportunities are endless.
That's super cool, man. I'm so glad you shared all that. I want to leave with just, you're a guy you're in it, you've done it. And I don't think a lot of people have access to someone that's actually done it. If you had to give a quick little list of simple or even extravagant tips or strategies with this, if someone's sitting there listening to this saying, dude, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to do it. This is going to prod me to do it. What's some advice or tips or strategies, even from purchasing all the way to managing to everything, man?
For sure. Some of the things I might do differently maybe is a good place to start. Maybe I would buy a used motorhome. We bought just like buying a new car. You drive it off the lot, how much money do you lose as soon as you drive it off? Maybe I'd buy like a 2-year-old motorhome or something. You still need something new. You still need to attract the renters, but I'd buy something a couple of years old. Get used to the platform right away. Jump into the forums. I mean, like, there's Facebook groups and forums for anything, learn as much as you can, learn from other people. I was completely astonished at how many people are doing what I'm doing all across the country. Hundreds, thousands of people. I follow these outdoorsy, RV share, these platform Facebook groups for owners. And there's hundreds of thousands of people who are doing this. And maybe they're doing it with their personal motorhome, their personal camper, whatever it might be. Or there's the people who have 2, 3, 4 of these, and they have the van or the camper and the Class A motorhome. They have different styles. I think of the local company here, Vanna Vans. Shout out to Vanna Vans, a Moorhead, Minnesota company. They build these custom conversion vans, super expensive. They're building out a rental fleet of conversion vans to rent out to people. It's part of their overall business strategy. I think they're like 20 employees now, just a really cool business that I'm a fan of. But really maybe a competitor of ours as you think about the rental game. But yeah, again, opportunities are endless, especially if you're in a market that might have more camping year round, or diversify your rentals.
What about anything? I know you touched on some of it with actually managing them. You said you provide a lot of amenities and things like that. Is there any? Do you leverage a lot of video? Do you do anything scalable, or is there anything you can kind of automate with it that you've kind of understood?
Not really. I mean, automate or scale, again, like marketing wise or gaining rentals, I haven't done anything. I haven't had to. We wouldn't want to be much busier than we already are, especially in the summer months. So Outdoorsy handles all that for you, which is super nice. I wash the outside of the motorhome when it comes in. My wife cleans the inside of the motorhome. We do like 2 loads of laundry and we're done. I mean, it's not like it's taken a ton of hours making sure it's clean, but it's also, like I said, we've been super fortunate with great renters, and maybe that's our price point again too, but we've never had to clean up I imagine maybe some Airbnbs that come back and they're just trashed, or whatever. There's parties there all weekend. We've just never had that experience yet with our motorhome. Hopefully, knock on wood, that we don't have to. But that's some of that negative stuff. It is work, like Sunday night, it comes back from WeFest. It wasn't trash, but we still got to clean it up. 8 a.m. Monday morning, this morning, it gets picked up for another 10-day rental. So last night we had to spend a couple hours, cleaning it up after the kids went to bed. So there is time and money put in there, but so worth it. Again, just the memories we've made and being able to have a motorhome sit in the front yard. I'm actually the Airbnb thing for football season this year. A lot of people coming into Fargo, North Dakota for college football season. I got to get it listed on Airbnb for this fall.
I love it. I love it. And there's something to be said about learning a skill in this. There's so many skills to be learned in the world of passive income, in the world of creating extra revenue streams. And one of my favorite, and I think one of the most powerful pieces of creating your lifestyle, creating multiple streams of income, is doing it with a partner, doing it with your spouse, doing it as a family, for your boys to see this, for your kids, not your little girl someday. Man, I think there's tons of power in that. I love what you're doing, Zach. I think a lot of people this is going to blow a lot of people's minds, some of the stuff you said today, and just kind of expose some of the mystery behind what this actually takes, what are some of the numbers behind this. So thank you so much for your transparency, man. It's fun to see you in this world, in this capacity, kind of, having vision and creation, but I also just respect the heck out of you for the family man that you are and mixing those two things, just so your family can benefit or have your family ROI is just as great, man. So that's huge. I know that you're that way, and I respect that. How can people find you, man? And how can people find Frankie if they're curious?
Yeah, go on the Outdoorsy app. I mean, you type in Fargo, North Dakota on the Outdoorsy app. Again, going back to supply and demand, when we made the decision, you go on the Outdoorsy app, you type in Fargo, North Dakota. I think we're going to be the only Class A motorhome on there in this market, to be honest. So a great way to find Frankie, Outdoorsy, Fargo, North Dakota. It's going to say Frankie the Flare, 2021 Fleetwood Flare. But find me anytime, Instagram, Facebook, Zach Johnson. But again, I don't have to do that. I didn't really want to mix that. I didn't really want to mix family, personal, social life with my, side hustle of a business. I didn't really want to get into the habit of renting to people in my social circles. I wanted to keep them separate, and they've never crossed paths. And I've never turned anyone down. I just don't market it, to the people in my circles. I keep it on Outdoorsy. They do the marketing. They find the renters. And so far we've had, really, really good luck with it. So.
Man, so awesome. Zach, thanks so much for sharing. Dude, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Take care. I can't wait to talk to you again, man.
Yeah, buddy. Appreciate the time. We'll talk soon.
This has been the Passive 25K podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Also, tell us what you thought by leaving a comment below on today's topic. If something really hit with you, don't be afraid to share this with someone else that's interested in passive income. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Passive 25K podcast.